Okay, my name's Chris Rowell. I work as an academic developer here at CRIT, Centre for Research Informed Teaching at South Bank Uni. Most times I've switched the microphones off, but if you do want to talk to me, you can unmute the microphone. At the bottom of the screen, you'll probably see a little microphone with a line through it. If you click on that, you can actually speak. But alternately, you can actually there's a chat room facility. So if you look at the bottom left hand side of your screen, there's like a little speech bubble. If you click on that, you can actually add a comment or say hello. So I see Nicola's left a little message. Hi, Nicola. Okay, so as I go through it, if you don't want to I don't mind if you interrupt actually, there's only a few people in this webinar, but if you just think of something or you want me to come back to it at the end, you could just jot in a question or a query into the chat room. Okay, what I'll do in terms of what the aims of this session. So, I'm just going to go through a few things. So first of all, just to outline the recent changes that have happened to anonymous marking. Just a little note here on the language. Although LSBU seems to refer to it as anonymous marking, in Moodle it actually uses slightly different language, so it refers to it as blind marking, but essentially I refer to it, anonymous or blind marking, as being the same thing. I'll go in and then I'll go and do a live demo in terms of Moodle. So we'll look at some student submissions, how to download and mark their work, and then how to reveal the students' names and return the grades return the marks to the students. So I aim to speak for about 15 minutes or so, and then if there's any questions, I'll take those towards the end. Okay, the first thing, so basically anonymous marking was switched on at the start of last semester. So it's a senior management decision that basically all assignments will be marked used anonymous marking. It is still left up to the individual lecturer if they don't want to use anonymous marking. There may be cases where this is not appropriate to use anonymous marking, but if so, you as the lecturer need to inform your students that you're not using it. So the default option is that blind marking or anonymous marking is the default option. What we actually mean by anonymous marking is the absence of students' names from submissions at the point of marking. So basically we need to anonymize the submissions in Moodle, which is automatically done, but obviously if a student puts their name into the assignment, there's nothing you can do to really stop that, I guess. Just inform them that they shouldn't be doing that. The main drivers why it was actually introduced, I've put 3 things down there, but I suppose the most important is the last of those 3 points. It was supported by the LSBU Student Union, but it is the perception, and it's the student's perception that there is a sort of a bias going on in the marking process, i.e. that some lecturers are easier at marking than others for maybe different reasons, but actually that's the perception that students have. So that was the reason why anonymous marking has been introduced here at South Bank, and to be honest, it puts us more in line with many other universities who already have this established. Okay, what I'm going to do now is go in and do a little live demo, so outline some of the things that I've just been talking about. So bear with me for just a couple of seconds while I upload the Moodle site. Okay, hopefully now you'll see in front of you a Moodle module. Okay, so this is my little sandpit area. In here I've created an assignment, so I'm going to the section on assessment and feedback, and I've created an assignment, so this one here, submit assignment for here. So I've already set up the assignment, and anonymous marking will be automatically enabled in this assignment. So let me click on here, click on the link. I can see there are 7 participants on the course. There's been 1 piece of work has been submitted and 1 piece of work needs grading. So I'm going to view all the submissions. Okay, so this is the class of students, and as you can see I've only had 1 student who submitted their work out of the whole class. Now straight away you can see that the students' names have been anonymized. So rather than seeing the name of the student, we now have a column at the start and it's headed identifier. And what Moodle does, it generates these participant numbers. So the first one is 1372183. These numbers they are not the student ID numbers. These are numbers that are randomly generated by Moodle. So they don't really refer to anything, and this is the case. So in terms of the workflow process of marking, what needs to be done by the lecturer, first of all they need to mark the student's work, and they need to mark it without revealing their identities. Then they need to upload the grades, reveal the student identities, and then send the grades back to the students. So I'll just go through this process. So let's look at this one that's been submitted, so the top one. So first of all what I need to do is grade the student's work. So I can click on the grade button, and we can see at the top of the page this piece of work has not been marked. The first link is the actual student's piece of work, so if I was to open that I would see the submitted piece of work that's been handed in by the student. So let's assume that I've actually marked it, so I'm going to give this particular student 67, so that's their actual grade out of 100, 67. I'm going to go for some overall feedback, so just call it assignment well done. Obviously you put a lot more detail into that. If you've actually downloaded the student's work and added comments into it, you can then upload the file, so you can add the file, re-upload it there, and that will go into that space there, or you can drag and drop it into that box there. So once you've done all of that, so you've put a grade, given some feedback, and maybe uploaded the student's piece of work with comments on it, you just hit the Save Changes button at the blue box at the bottom of the page, and then it gives you confirmation. Hopefully you can see that a little box pops up in the middle of the page that says Changes Saved. Okay, so now if I go back to the assignment and view the class's grade book, I can see now excuse me, I've got a bit of a cough at the moment, try not to cough into the microphone. Right, we can see that piece of work now that's being graded, so it's you can see the grade mark 67 out of 100, and obviously if I'd had more than 1 submission I would go through all of that and carry on with my marking. Okay, once all of that's complete, i.e. once all the marking's complete, and before, and I hence I emphasize the term before you send the grades back to the students, you need to reveal the students' identities. If you do not reveal the students' identities, the grades will go back to the students, but the students will not be able to see any feedback comments. Okay, So to reveal the student identities, we go to the top of the page. Underneath the name of the assignment, we can see a box with some drop downs called grading actions. So if I click on that box, and I'm going to select reveal student identities, and then again a little box pops up just asking you to confirm that's exactly what you want to do. And it also tells you that once you've revealed the student identities, you cannot go back and anonymize them again. Okay, so once it's done once, you can't go back and make them anonymous.
Chris,
Okay.
can I ask a question there at all?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, it's Richard Fair from ACI. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Not sure if we've met before, but anyway, fire away.
So you said you've got to reveal student identities before sending feedback.
Yeah.
If an academic colleague has sent feedback before revealing student identities, is there any way to undo it?
That's a good question, actually. I think if you go back and after they've sent it back and then they go back and reveal it, I think it should still work.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So, but either way, yeah, I'm pretty sure that would work. But they must reveal the identities. Otherwise, the students, I think it's the case, they would only get the grades, but not necessarily the feedback as well. I've noticed something that's really that message has not got to lecturers.
I've dealt with a couple of issues from academics kind of coming to me and saying that students can't see their feedback. So now I'm beginning to understand where that's coming.
Yeah, I think what's happened is the anonymous marking has been pushed out. People have been told about it, but actually, nobody's told them that even if they don't reveal their identities, the students are not going to get to see that feedback. But I'm pretty sure it can be done retrospectively.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay. So, once you've done that, you can see the identities then are revealed. So I've got some just SAMPET students in there and a couple of my colleagues. So it was actually, you can see it was Dell SAMPET 1 student was the actual student who was the only student who handed in the work, and I managed to mark it. So once that process has been done, the final thing then is to hand back the student's work. So typically speaking, rather than individually hand it back to the student, we would select the whole classes. So I've just gone, hopefully you can see that on the top left hand side there's a little checkbox. Once you've checked the whole class, the page turns a slightly different colour, slightly colourblind. I think that's an orangey yellow colour. And then if underneath all the students' name, again, if we go to the drop down, we need to set marking workflow state. Okay, so this is to reveal all the grades of all the students' work back to the students. So we set marking workflow state, click the go button, we just get a confirmation box popping up, and then in the drop down on that page at the bottom of all the students' names, where it's headed marking workflow state, in the drop down we select released, and we can notify students with an email. I'll just keep that as no, but it's probably a good idea that you click that box to yes and then save changes. Okay, and then we get confirmation of that. So in the column that's headed status, you can now see that all the grades have been released to the students. Okay, so basically that's the whole cycle of the students' work being submitted, marking the actual work. Again, there's more than one way of marking it, but essentially marking the students' work, revealing the student identities, and then releasing the grades back to the students. So that's it really in terms of my sort of live demo. I'm not sure if there's any questions coming because I can't actually see the questions while I'm doing the live demo, so I'll just let me go back in terms of my presentation. Okay, so in a couple of seconds. Okay, right, okay. Nicholas asked a good question there. It says, are students being told how to remove personal information from their files before submitting, e.g. document properties? This information will be available by default even if they made a part of not including their names in the document folder. The answer is they should be. If and I'll go to I'll just skip a couple of slides, so that's a little bit fuzzy there. Nicola or anybody else who's listening, in terms of if you go to the Moodle help section at the top of the page and then go to help sheets, there are some guides there that I've written for students on how to anonymize their work. So the guidance basically, first of all, tells them that they shouldn't be putting their names into the assignments, but it does recommend that they put their student ID numbers into the assignment files or into the header, and then some further details about how to strip out the anonymize the information in a Word document as well. I prepared that some time ago, so those worksheets, and I think they'll be relevant to you, especially Nicola. If you can't find them, email me and I'll send you the actual worksheets that I've produced. Okay, excellent. You found it. Good stuff. All right. Okay, so just to end up then, in terms of last few things, and this is the main point, and it's the points that I've just went over before really, is that students' names must be, the student identities must be released before the grades are released, and obviously that's the point that Richard made about the feedback not going back to the students unless this is done. Okay, there are, and as I said before, there's help in terms of help sheets in terms of explaining the anonymised process from staff, but also giving guidance to students in the Moodle help section. So that's the blue button at the top left hand part of the screen. Click on that, and then I think it's go to online help and then go to help sheets. Okay, that's it for this week. Just to end up on, well, unless there's any other further questions, which doesn't look like it, we've got future webinars coming up this semester. So I think next week's one is the last one on what's new in Moodle, and there are a few new features, but there were features that were introduced at the start of last semester, so I'll talk through those. I suspect most people still aren't aware of those, so that's a what's new. And then there will be other ones on approaches to providing electronic feedback, which will be looking at how to set up a rubric, and then the last two are fairly similar. So a Moodle site health check will look at what should go into a typical Moodle module, and then getting Moodle ready for next semester will cover basically the Dell baseline in terms of, again, what should go into a typical Moodle module. Alright, that's what's scheduled for this semester. And again, but if anybody's got any other further suggestions, I'm happy to cover other ground as well. Alright, okay, thank you everyone for participating in the lecture, in the webinar. Those are my details, which I'll just leave up on the screen for a little bit. So that's my email address, Twitter handle, and I'm based in London Road, room LR134. Okay, thanks very much. Thank you everyone. Cheers. Bye.